Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, all our EMEA participants. I hope we've got everyone in the room by now. Um, you all are very, very welcome today to our Smart Recipes in FMCG webinar. My name is Annie Toner. I'm the CEO of the Data Shack Group, so I take care of our operations across EMEA region, Africa, UK and Ireland, as well as the whole of Europe and Asia Pac. So delighted to talk to you today about Sigmafi and introducing you to the product. I'll be speaking to you for the first part of this presentation and then introduce my colleague Jason Winders, who is the product manager for Sigmafi. And Jason will be taking us today on a journey through Sigmafi from a persona point of view and who you guys are in the room. We're delighted to have all of you here. What goes into, and guys, you, the audience in the room, you actually know what goes into creating the perfect product. We did a bit of a poll, myself and the marketing team, and I see some people in the room from South Africa. I see some people from our EMEA region, from Germany, Switzerland, and I see some UK guys in as well. So guys, we did a poll of what is the favorite chocolate? What's people's favorite chocolate? And the link pictures South Africa, and you can see Cadbury comes out on top. Funnily enough, same thing happened in Britain. We did the same in Europe. And guess what? Again, Cadbury's. We did some of this really. If you look in the UK, really old. This brand was started in 1905 in the UK. Now, well, guys, I always say to my American colleagues in New York City, you live in New York, I live in Old York in the UK. And here we actually have the old Rowntree's factory, which is now Nestle, and actually a museum where the chocolate, where you can actually go and learn about York's chocolate story. But today we want to be taking you through our chocolate story and looking at Sigmafi from the point of view of product development and making sure that we as professionals deliver to our customer, whether you're the CEO, whoever you are, departmental management, whether you're in quality control, whether you're in engineering, process engineering. What's important at the end of the day for yourself and your company is creating the perfect product. What makes customers so brand loyal? What makes customers buy your product? We know it doesn't just happen. We know that you spend your life assuring that customers get the best quality, the best product at the right price at the right time. You've spent your money on connecting data. You've spent your money on sensors in your plants. You've spent your money understanding your end-to-end process. But even so, we find that our customers are still facing challenges. I've been working in this industry for over 20 years, close on, if I age myself, 25 years right now. But really still see some of these challenges coming to the fore, even in very, very large manufacturers. You'll see me today in business attire, but mostly you'll see me in jeans and a t-shirt and a hard hat and safety shoes kicking tires in plants. That's how I grew up. That's how we learn about our customers, and that's how Sigmafi came about. Over all this time, seeing the challenges of our customers. If you look at Will right here, Will is actually a plant GM, and Will still has a couple of challenges facing him. He looks through his lens, and he sees that they have lots more data, but less insight. There's no common platform for his department managers to talk the same language. A lot of the analytics guys built out there today, and I can tell you guys, finance, insurance, marketing, CRM, and all of those are far more mature in the analytics and data science space, just because they had far more data available from the get-go. In manufacturing, the volumes of data, getting it right, came a little bit later. And a lot of the time, the tools that are available to you are great tools, but they're not built for a factory. They are not built to support your business methodologies like Six Sigma. Your software is built for business, not for a plant and not for Six Sigma. And we've got usually these BI dashboards corporately generated, and not everybody uses them, especially if you're working on a plant floor. But really, to assist Will, thankfully and hopefully, we have found through years and years of getting it wrong sometimes in the beginning, and finally getting it right and developing a tool like Sigmafi, developing this recipe for success. And enabling Will to create the perfect chocolate, the perfect product for his customer. So this recipe for success involves a whole bunch of things. It's exploring your raw ingredients, data around what comes into your plant, your incoming supply. You cannot control what your suppliers are giving you in raw materials. However, you can make your plant robust enough to be able to handle anything that's being thrown at it. I've worked in the mining industry for a very, very long time with De Beers and Anglo American Platinum, and knowing that ore is ore. You can't order a certain quality ore to crush to get diamonds out of it. You get what you get. And a lot of the time, you guys can control your incoming supply chain. That's not always the truth for everyone, but you can't control every single batch. You've got to be agile enough and understand what you're getting to know what you need to do to your process to still get that perfect product back out to your customer. What is next in our perfect recipe? And we feel that it's essential. With Sigmafi, we've given you a connected data platform, meaning under the hood that you don't see runs a data virtualization environment that brings all of this together. You cannot view your business as a whole, talk the same version of the truth if data comes from untrusted sources and sources you haven't validated and federated and made sure that whatever data we are using to display, to talk as an organization, comes from the very same place. We all talk the same language because our data is the same. It's the truth. It's validated, and it comes to us as fast as our business actually need it. As I said before, a lot of the BI systems, a lot of the apps that you see out there today were not necessarily built, especially if you come to the very advanced analytics, statistical process control, when you come to algorithms that help you understand and optimize your processes and so forth. They were not always built for factories. We've tried with Sigmafi to look at it, at what is essential for you as a business to make that perfect product, and add analytics into our apps that is suited for factories and suited for the language you speak. And that brings me to the Six Sigma methodology. You will see in the GUI, Jason and I will show you a little bit later on when we take a deep dive from each of your perspectives into the product, that it is built on Six Sigma methodology. It really incorporates that process and methodology. It helps set the mindset and culture in your organization and uses the right tools and techniques. Guys, I'm speaking in 2 weeks' time at the National Manufacturing Summit here in the UK, in Coventry. And guess what they asked me to speak about? Mindset and culture. How do we plan for the factory of the future? What skills do we need? And guess what they're asking about? Analytics, data science skills. We don't expect our engineers, our quality professionals, our factory management to become data scientists and analysts. However, we need to be able to equip them with just enough and enough to make clever decisions and serve it up in a simple interface that they are able to make decisions without having to become this high-end analyst. When we talk to our process engineering guys, our Six Sigma professionals, a lot of them have deep knowledge about these methodologies and the analytics. However, we don't expect every single human in your business to adhere to that. However, we do expect them to understand the outcomes and to be able to interpret. What makes Sigmafi really unique is that we've built AI and ML algorithms under the hood. When you click on the apps that enable you to forecast what may happen given the last 8 hours, 1 week, 1 month, there's really nice advanced AI and ML algorithms under the hood that happen in the background. If I want to know what's happening currently in a specific department, understand how that has looked for a while and what predicting into the future, there's some really cool apps and algorithms running under the hood for you. You don't have to be that data scientist, but if you need to, it's right there at your fingertips. It's built in, and you can become a really, really good citizen data scientist. So solving this factory challenge, as I said, is hard work. You guys know, you live it. You live it every single day. And we really hope to be bringing, if us look at Will, I hope his smile will get brighter and brighter as we go along this presentation, listening to his challenges as we started. I just want to talk about, before we really take a dive into the product, a little bit about what's happening in the industry, guys. When we go to conferences, we listen to analysts like Gartner that go and poll large manufacturers, go and poll people using specific applications for analytics, for smart decision making, smart factory, factory of the future, digital twins. They've done some really good research, and they basically identified that that super apps are emerging, and we really like to think of Sigmafi as a super app that provides you a bunch of tools within it, apps for each type of persona within your business. And we've really developed it to be person-centric and your GUI to be easy to interpret. I actually once listened, some of the tools that we represent were in the past owned by Dell Software Group, and I was fortunate enough to listen to a talk and a meet afterwards, Michael Dell, and even then, and that was in 2014, he actually said, if a 4-year-old can't understand or interpret what a graph on an app is showing you, it should not be displayed. So in our industry, we know it's a little bit more complicated than that, but really it's estimated, as you see by Gartner, that by 2027, 50% of your users will be daily users of these super apps. And we need to bring your factory of the future and these super apps sort of closer together, because else, you don't want to be a factory of the past. So what are we giving you? What is Sigmafi? We're giving you a bunch of factory super apps depending on what your role in this factory is. What do you need at your fingertips very quickly and every day? We provide you with a connected data environment, streaming data, a data virtualization environment, as I said, data science, machine learning, AI under the hood, great visualization. You need to be able to interpret and understand very quickly through the graphical user interface what is happening in your plant. It's all good serving up that data, but what are you doing about it? If you're not doing anything about it because you can't interpret and understand what is happening, guys, you're dead in the water. Really, Sigmafi was built for you. We provide you with implementation, we provide you with training, and all of this underpinned, as I said, by Six Sigma methodology, making sure we follow all the correct steps and we don't miss any when we're solving problems, when we're looking to optimize. So we've really thought long and hard about making sure we give you a complete package. We don't just put stuff down and walk away from you. It really eliminates those questions that Will's been asking us all the time and the problems he's been describing to us, siloed data sources, confusion within his teams and departments on their overall KPIs and metrics, messy analytic, different versions of the truth. I often find that in each department, they run their own little system. And they often end up in production meetings, sort of fighting department for department and saying, well, my data is right and yours is wrong. And we want to eliminate that. We serve up the same data and making sure that everybody has a correct version of the truth and speaks from a common platform. And making sure that we can actually share our process performances back to back using the same metrics. So we can compare our processes to one another and make sure it's visible to all of our stakeholders on any device that they may be using as a front end. So really what's in Sigmafi, really, as I talk about the apps within the super app, there's apps for process optimization, there's apps for root cause analysis, there's apps for continuous improvement, things like design of experiments and so forth. There's apps for statistical process control. If you're at the coal face and you're needing to understand what's currently happening on specific production lines, or you're in charge of quality and have to look at it that way. It's really built for the factory, as I said, whether you're in a leadership team, you need an overall view of every part of your process over time for every department. Whether you're a departmental manager and you want to look at the parameters currently running on several production lines in your department, you can immediately go click on the red ones. We know this robot system works well. You don't need to focus on the green ones. You need to focus on the red ones and very quickly need to run them through these modules and see why things are going wrong if they're red. If you're in the process in engineering, it's your job to make things run smoothly, to assure that you can optimize this all the time. You've got a lovely set of analytical and optimization tools right at your fingertips. And of course, you guys in quality control and distribution, you need to understand those parameters that are important to your customer and critical to the quality need to be monitored, and you need to be able to zoom in very, very quickly when things go wrong. So really, what we've tried to give you here is a set of factory super app that's delivered your way. It's out of the box. You've got data connected. You've got AI. Very quickly, we can develop and model the process. And of course, we support you with training. We make sure you understand how to run the tools, how to interpret. We've got years and years of experience of working with customers of all maturity levels, very small little manufacturing plants that are starting up and first or implementing any sort of statistical process control, even to start with, to very, very large mature businesses who are just siloed and trying to get it right. So guys, this is a snapshot of some of our very large global customers. As I say, 25 plus years working. Some of these really have been our customers for a very, very, very long time. I look to people like British American Tobacco, who's been our customer since I think 2001, 2002. De Beers, 2004. SAB Miller have just been my customer since 1995. So yeah, I age myself a little bit, but guys, we have the experience, and we're trying to make sure that you don't have to learn from scratch. We've learned some lessons over the last 20 plus years, certainly as Data Shack, and me by experience, especially as a youngster, getting my hands dirty in the analytics and data science side. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to some personas, and we're going to work with Jason to talk our chocolate story. We started off saying, how do I make the perfect product? How do I make the perfect chocolate? If, as in Will's case, he needs to run this place. This plant is his baby. He's the plant GM, and he needs to help and equip his team of people, which we'll introduce as we go along, and help them manufacture that perfect product. And so with that, I'm going to hand you over to my esteemed colleague, Jason. I'm going to stop sharing. and give Jason a moment to actually start working with us and start showing. And while Jason's getting that up, let me introduce Will. Let me introduce our first persona. So guys, Will is, as you will know, in the C-suite. He's the factory GM. He's really responsible for the performance of the entire process, this chocolate factory of ours, and he needs to see the overall process performance of this factory over time. He might want to look at what Jason's going to show you, a CPK calendar, CPK being your process performance, your process capability. And he needs to understand department, how do these flow from my incoming supply right to distribution, and he needs to have his hands on these departments, and he needs to understand that his customers and the business goals are being met, and that the process is in good shape from a performance and maintenance standpoint. So Jason, without further ado, Jason's going to take you on the journey of Will and a day in the life of Will with Sigmafi.
Thanks, Annie. Hi, everyone. As a high-level lead, you get to start off with a very high-level view and use the filters on the left to drill into what you want to look at. On the x-axis, you can see the hierarchy that you've set up for your company, and on the y-axis is time. This is a great place to see how you're doing from a high level. With your eye on the x-axis, you can quickly view data by department, navigate down the levels to product and parameter if you need to. Let's say I'd like to take a closer look at product C. You can see how the red areas are highlighted in this demo data. The product travels through departments sequentially in this demo data. So this product moves through the departments from A to D. And in the facility, you can see how the process becomes better as the product is refined and moves to finished goods at the end. You can choose to look at the data by month instead of year, instead of quarter. And to focus on the more recent data, let's remove the older data. Looking at the red in group mass throughout the facility, there's group mass again, and over there. You may want to assign someone to look at this parameter across departments, assuring your chocolates conform to business specifications and are what our customers want is of utmost importance. We don't want our chocolates to be anything but the best.
Guys, and that's exactly what we want to know. If I'm Will, I'm responsible ultimately for making sure that my customer gets what they want. And this is one of many views for you. There's some breakdowns. There's looking at various metrics from one to the other, and making sure that me as Will can select, can work, can get to the data immediately. I have a higher level view, but I can zoom in very quickly, as you'll see when we switch to the next persona. So our next persona is our lady in the black jacket that we saw earlier, and her name is Laura. Laura is a departmental manager, and Laura is actually responsible here for the packaging of our chocolates, and she needs a bird's eye view of her entire department. So she's zooming into a specific department that she's responsible for, and she needs to understand in the areas and parameters that she's responsible for, how she's stacking up on a weekly, monthly, daily performance perhaps, and what needs urgent attention. So imagine Laura is in this chocolate factory responsible for Department D, which is the packaging process for her chocolates. And those are the packaging is very important when customers touch and feel my product. Product B currently is in high demand. It needs to be perfect. And we'll see here, Jason's going to show you that the actual mass of the product, which you can imagine, customers don't want to be deprived of their chocolate. They need to get as much as possible, and it's not performing as expected, a high level. And Laura needs to understand why very, very quickly. So with that, Jason, I'm handing back to you.
In the screen, I've just shown you how easy this is in Sigmafi, remembering that I have a fully integrated virtualized space where all relevant data comes from for the entire factory. Now I'm viewing my slice of the pie for my department. By selecting my department only, not only does it save time by not loading data I don't want, but it allows me to focus to the level of my department's process capability. It's very easy to see which of my parameters are not doing so well by the color. So let's select product B. Let's focus on the parameter that is not doing so well, individual mass D. Looking at the CPK trend graph, I can see there's been some gaps between groups of measurements. In our case, this is because product B has only been manufactured at these different times. By the way, let's pretend that the latest data is current in 2024. I'm going to select a moving range for individuals, and I'm going to run this subset of data through the model. All the graphs with the loading circle will be refreshed once the workbench has run and ingested the data and calculated the outputs. As the X chart is also displaying the data points over time, from this, we can see that the process was producing products with a mass too close to the upper control limit for the first manufacturing period. And as something changed over time, it made the process produce mass too close to the lower control for a period. Something was then changed over time that made the process produce a mass closer to the upper control limit again. It looks like the raw material coming into this department is changing over time. So we would perhaps need to go back to the previous steps in the process, but we can use this graph to drive the investigation into the root cause. I know this is a historical data set, so let's focus on the last time this product was manufactured, June 2019, which we're imagining is this month. I'd like to see the statistical graph for this recent data. So I'm running it through the model again. And from the X chart here, we can see that the most recent manufacturing period is looking a lot better if you look at the data in isolation. But to be sure, one would have to check the CPK for the same period. Thanks, Annie.
Great, guys. Now, this is just a quick view of what what life looks like from Laura's point of view, and having to assure that what she's looking after runs as smoothly as possible. And as you can see, she's really capable of looking back into the past, looking at what's happening right now. And of course, if you we have the live streamer on, she can look at what happened in the last minute as quickly as having that data stream back to me. But while Jason is switching, let's talk about our next persona. And our next persona is a process engineer. Now, guys, his name is Stuart. He's the guy in the hard hat in the slides that I showed you. And he's obviously responsible for specific process areas, perhaps within departments. And he usually needs a relatively deep dive into specific data very quickly and perhaps repetitively, looking at different parameters for the same production line. For instance, in our chocolate factory, if I'm Stuart, I may be responsible for ensuring that the packaging department described previously, there's a seamless flow of product, nothing is blocked to my chocolate wrapping machines, and the sensors measuring this weight of the product are always functioning as expected. Our packaging equipment is consistently able, they're well maintained, and they're able to deliver products within our business customer and engineering specifications. So if any of these things go wrong and products are not packed correctly, you can understand maybe at specific diameters or dimensions like the thickness, the weight of the chocolates, that they may end up in rejected stock, they may end up in waste. You know, in your factories what that costs you. And lastly, the worst thing that can happen is they may end up coming to a then very unhappy customer. So I will let Jason take you through the journey of a process engineer and what are the tools available to Stuart to assure that he's able to do his part of the job.
Thanks, Annie. So in process mean analysis by parameter screen, I can get to see the same hierarchy everyone else is seeing, enabling efficient collaboration. And each parameter's process capability level is easily identified based on its color. In the tree map, the bigger the block of in the tree map, the more data there is for that parameter. So I'm going to focus on diameter E for now. Looking at the historical process mean graph, we see the actual data points plotted with the upper and lower spec as well as the target. Right away, we can see there's something very wrong as the process is running outside of spec. Looking at the process mean bin count will also confirm this. And the fact that the CPK is mostly negative alerts a problem, as we see in the 3 graphs here at the bottom. So we quickly check our spec sheet for this product and parameter and determine that the specs have been captured incorrectly. So we can go and address this root cause for this parameter. Moving on to the next big problem, thickness D. Here we can see in the process mean analysis, process mean chart, even though the process is within spec, mostly the variability is too large. The process mean binned by count confirms that too. By the CPK charts, we can see that this is also quite low, the CPK. So the next step would be to have a look at the SBC chart for this parameter, which will most likely show that the process is running in spec, but out of control limits. This is usually an indication that I need to make some investments in equipment or process design and optimization, as my current process is not able to meet business and customer specifications. I need to also investigate how other parameters in my process, design changes and process enhancements, could correct this problem. Sigmafi contains very rich multivariate modeling and forecasting tools to help me with just that. Factory upgrades need investment, and for justification of this, in our chocolate factory, my Six Sigma project team and I will need to be able to have a very good understanding of root causes, enhancements needed, and of course, predictive projections on what improvements may yield to return on investments.
Absolutely, Jason. Very many times this is the case, and we have to help customers justify. I had a paper and pulp customer that I worked with way back when that invested in a whole big refurbishment of the ovens that were cooking this paper pulp, cleaning it to be white so that they could make fine white paper. After refurbishment, their production actually had dropped from about a consistent 85 to 90% of target, it had dropped to in the 70s after refurbishment. Now you can imagine how happy management would be if you can't optimize that, if you can't justify that money that you've spent. And we managed, thankfully, with them, working with them to optimize some of the parameters and change the recipe, if you will, and make sure that they were producing within the week the levels of paper pulp that they were expecting. So guys, powerful tools, simple tools, but as a Six Sigma professional process engineer, knowing that those are at your fingertips and that you can quickly use those to get yourself out of the fire, of course. So Jason, switching over to our last persona we're going to be talking to you about. And our last persona is actually Kim. And Kim is a quality controller. She works in quality department. And she reports to the factory quality manager. And their team is responsible for final product quality across the board. And ensuring that when products leave that plant, they are of the quality that, number one, their customers expect, and what their business leaders expect. You saw Jason showing you that graph where we were our weight or thickness was way too high. That means we're using too much raw material. It's costing the business money. If we're using too little and our products are small and tiny, they're not acceptable to our customers. We need to assure that, as my stats professor at university used to say, I'm not consistently with my head in the fire and my feet in the freezer, because on average I'm not fine. Right, you guys know that if you're in quality control and statistical process control. So imagine I'm Kim, I'm a quality inspector and controller, and I need to analyze specific critical to quality parameters on our chocolates, finished and packaged products. So there are various of these parameters that Kim's monitoring consistently, and they need to go out to the distribution process and get to my customers. And if you Kim, you are responsible to make sure that this works. Literally, Sigmafi makes it really easy for her to drill down on those and assure if there's problems, if something is red, like Jason shows you, she can quickly go and see what it is and what may have happened. Imagine Kim's manager came to her, and from live monitoring, she notices some unexpected behavior, and they need to fix that very quickly. There is a critical to quality problem on thickness D and department A for a particular product A, which we're going to be looking at. And and Kim knows, if that goes out of specification, she may have to stop the production process to avoid waste and customer complaints. Jason, show us Kim's journey, please.
No problem. So I've loaded Department A's data in the same way that the manager did. Let's also restrict the data to product A. And let's focus on the problem parameter, which is thickness D. So here I'm going to select moving range, and I'm going to run the thickness data through the SBC model. And this gives us a result and output. So this is, we can see what's happening over time. You can see the history here. But let's go to the most recent data. So, and let's have a look and see if we can get the SPC chart for this. As the X chart is also, obviously, as I've mentioned before, displays data points over time, we can see the process was closer to normal in the beginning, but something changed to prevent continuing this downward trend, which seems to be an overcorrection that needs to be addressed urgently. So we can use this graph to start a conversation with engineering to investigate the root cause. We can move to the runs rules if we would like a little bit more detail on this specific graph. Here on the right-hand side, we can see the reasons why each data point is colored the way they are and with the violations that are happening. If you select one of these records, it will highlight the data points that are in that specific violation. And if you can also select multiple records if you'd like to be able to. And then what you can also do is after selecting that, you can click the highlight data points button over here, and you'll be able to drill actually into those data points completely to see the data in more detail. Thanks, Annie.
So guys, just as we're finishing up, we've shown you a small snippet just from various angles, depending on who you are in the business, looking at Sigmafi. But remember, Sigmafi is a whole super app that contains all of these pieces. Whichever persona you are, you can enter and work with Sigmafi the way that works for you. However, don't forget, it's a suite of products. It's a super app that is, as we said, underpinned by Six Sigma methodology. Specifically, if you steward, if you're the process engineer and you need to solve problems and optimize, you have the full domain Six Sigma process. This is the start panel in Sigmafi where you can go to define, measure, analyze, improve, control. You've got a full suite of, in the analyze box, you can see here multivariate regression analysis, classification, time series, and forecasting. So a whole bunch and box of tricks, of course, underpinned by the data virtualization environment. When we go to define and we grab our data, if we're streaming events from the last 10 minutes, or we're selecting data like Jason was showing you, historical data, we can enter Sigmafi the way that works for us as a persona. So Jason, with that, I am going to take over control and just finish us up for today. And definitely, guys, thank you all. And guys, just from our audience of performers here in our factory, thank you for attending. We would absolutely love, and from our team, a big thank you for attending this webinar. Guys, we've shown you a snippet. If you want a deep dive, if you want to see any of those modules, if you want to see it from your perspective, and you're a different persona in that plant, please contact us, Elise, Josh, in this team who invited you. Their contact details are here. You can, of course, contact us through any of these platforms. We thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Although we've shown you some snippets, we wanted to give you a bit of an immersive experience of you as a user navigating your way through Sigmafi. Guys, please talk to us, reach out, ask your questions. We'll be happy as a team to speak to you. I thank you very much, and thank you for spending your morning or early afternoon with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.